Hello everyone, I'm Siddharthan. In this video, let's build a simple AI agent using LlamaIndex. AI agents are autonomous systems that can perform tasks and actions without human intervention. In order to do these tasks and actions, the agents are provided with tools that they can access. Let's say, for example, if you want to build a research agent that's going to search internet for you. So now it need a tool that can provide the access to the internet and the agent can search on the internet, right? So this is one example of a tool. So similarly, we have several tools available and also we can build custom tools for our agent based on our requirement. So in this video, let's build a very simple AI agent to just get started with this using LlamaIndex, and we will build a simple agent that's going to perform arithmetic operations. So these arithmetic operations, we are going to provide it as different tools for our agent, and the agent will be able to select the tool that is necessary for a particular task and it will be able to perform that particular action. So let's get started. And for this programming, we can use Google Collaboratory. And for LLM, I'm going to use Grok. But if you want to run this on local, you can definitely use Olama, and you can just connect it with the LlamaIndex package, and then you can use it. So the two libraries that I'm going to use are LlamaIndex and LlamaIndex LLMs Grok. As I said, so we have the Grok version of LLMs in LlamaIndex. So we have Olama, OpenAI versions, and so on. So you can use the one of your choice. So here I've installed these required libraries. So I'm not connected to a GPU environment as I'm going to load the LLM from Grok. So if you're using LLM from Hugging Face or some other platform, so you can just provision, let's say, uh, GPU environment. So we have D4 GPU environments in Google Colab. You can use that. So I'll just hide this particular output for now. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing that we are going to do here is import the dependencies. So I'll say importing the dependencies. Okay, so here I'm going to import OS, and then from llama underscore index dot core dot agents or agent import react agent. So your R and A should be in uppercase letter. So we have react agent, and then from llama index, oh sorry, dot llms dot grok. So this is the version that we have downloaded, the llms, the llama index llms grok library. So from this I'm going to import grok, and finally from llama index dot core dot tools import function 2. So let's understand the purpose of these modules and libraries. So here, first we have the OS library. So this we need in order to save the API key of Grok so that we can access their APIs to access the open source LLMs that we are going to use. So for that purpose, we have this OS module so that we can save it in the environment variable. And then we have this React agent. From llamaindex.core.agent, we are importing React agent. So what this React means is it's a reasoning and acting agent. So it's going to reason your question, understand what we have to do, understand the different tools that we have, and it's going to take an action based on the tools and flows it has. So that's what this React agent means, which stands for reasoning and acting agent. And then we have from llamaindex.llms.grok, of course, to power our agents, we have this LLMs that we are going to access from Grok. And then we have llamaindex.code.tools import function tool. So we're going to write tools as Python functions and then use this function tool to pass it to the LLMs and to our agent. So that's the purpose of these different modules and functions that we have over here. So now the next step is let's get the API key from Grok. So I've used Grok in several videos of mine. So again, it has a free tier and it's completely sufficient for your development purposes. So we can just use that one. You can just search for, let's say, Grok, and you would have this dev console. So once you're logged in, even you can log in with your Gmail account. So you can log in there and go to your API keys. So that would list all the API keys that you have. And then you can create a new key if you want. So let's say that I'm creating a new key specific for this particular project. And I'm going to name this as, let's say, a simple AI agent and submit. So that's going to generate a API key for you. So copy this. So this need to be saved in the environment variable. So I'll say os.environ, and within this I'm going to say grok API key. So this environment variable name shouldn't change because this is the environment variable where the grok library will look for the API key. So this shouldn't change from your end. So it's a complete uppercase letters of grok API key is equal to paste your API key here. Okay, so the better approach is to put it in a environment file or put it in a configuration.json file and load it here. But just for simplicity's sake, I'm just like saving this in code, but it's not recommended to put your API code explicitly like this. So I'll call this as loading the Grok model or Grok LLM. Okay, so here I'm going to say LLM is equal to Grok, which is something that we have imported. So within this, you can pass some parameters. So I'll say model is equal to, and then I'll have temperature, which is to have your, you know, one second. So temperature is equal to 0. So temperature basically determines like how consistent your response is. If you keep the value closer to 0, that means for the same question you're going to get like similar answers every time. And now let's choose the model that we are going to work with. So you can just like search in Google about Grok model. So that's going to give you the supported model that we have. So here we have this production model. So these are the different models that we have. I'm just like sufficient with this Llama 3 8 billion model. So let me just look for the one that I usually use. So we have this, yeah, Llama 3.1 8 billion instance. So this also has like a larger context window. So that's like a bit better. Or you can use this Llama 3.3 70 billion version, but I'll just like go with this 8 billion instance. But again, you can try this model as well, which is a larger model. As you can see the parameter size. So I'll paste this model name here and I'll run this. So this is the LLM that we have loaded here. So now in the next step, we are going to create the tools for our model. So as I said earlier, we are just going to build arithmetic agents where you can just ask a question. So the user can ask a question in a plain English language, like what is the sum of, let's say 20 plus 20, or what's 20 divided by 2, or 20 into 10 plus 5, something like that. So it's going to perform all these arithmetic operations based on the tools that we are going to provide it. So for that, we need to create these tools, right? So here I'll create a text cell and say that creating basic arithmetic tools. So the thing is, this is a simple use case, but this template can be used for other complex stuff as well. So instead of these simple tools, you can have tools of your choice. Let's say, as I said, you can have a search engine tool, or like a tool that's going to search internet for real-time weather for a particular place and so on. So it can be like used for those different purposes as well. And in the subsequent videos, let's also like increase the complexity of this and try to understand what are all the different variations and interesting features that we can test here. Okay, so here I'm going to say define add. So this is the add function that I'm passing, and mention your parameters. So the two parameters that this add function is going to take are a and b, right? And then I'm going to say this. So we have this hyphen and this right arrow symbol, and I'm going to say float. I'll explain you all these things in a minute. So here we need a doc string. So doc string is the string that basically gives you a description of what a particular function does. I mean, usually we don't use this, but it's the standard way to do this. But the reason we are putting this doc string and mentioning this data type is not to follow the standards. I'll just explain you that in a minute, like what's the purpose of doing this. So we have this, let's say, add two numbers and return the sum. Okay, this is the doc string for this, and then I'm going to say return a plus b. So let's try to understand. So usually when we write functions, right, in Python, we don't mention like what's the data type of the parameter, what's the output parameter is going to be. Or first, let's understand what we have done here. So add is the function. So we usually write functions, and a and b are the parameters this function is going to take. Now, this float represents that the input parameter a is going to be a data type of float, and b is also going to be a data type of float. And the output that you're going to get from this function is going to be a float. So that's what you represent by this. And this doc string represents what the purpose of this function is, so what this function does. And then you have this return statement, and it basically adds two numbers and it's going to return this. So the reason we are being like kind of giving all these details are the LLM is going to understand the purpose of this function. The agent is going to understand the purpose of this function by looking at this particular doc string, and it knows like what's the data type it has to pass with these kind of parameters that we have mentioned here. So whenever you're making a tool, we have to be as much as descriptive as possible so that the LLM and the agent would be able to, identify the purpose of different functions, and to understand or to make the decision of which function to use. So let's say that in this case we have four functions. So we have add, subtract, multiply, and divide. So the LLM needs to know, or the agent needs to know. So the reason I'm mentioning both LLM and the agent is that the agent is going to rely on the LLM to make the decision, right? So what's the function I'm going to use, or the tool that I'm going to use? So yeah, that's why I'm using those two things together. But yeah, let's say that the agent needs to understand which tool it has to use. So that is going to be done with the help of these doc strings that we have. So I'll copy this, and I'll paste it another time, and I'll call this as subtract. And again, it's going to be a float and b float as well. The output is also going to be a float, and I can say subtract the second number from the first number and return the result. Okay, so here we have to say a minus b. Okay, so this is for subtract. And then let me, okay, just seeing if there is a way to look at the line numbers. Okay, so let's see. Session guide enable. Okay, that's okay. So next is we are going to add multiply. So multiply, we again have a and b. So the output is also, let's pass it as float. And here we are going to say multiply two numbers and return the product. Okay. And this has to be like a asterisk sign b. And finally, we have this divide operation. So I'll call this as define divide, a float, b and float, and your, let's say, output is also going to be float. And doc string, I'm going to mention it as divide the first number by the second number and return the quotient. So here I'm going to say a divided by b. Okay, so these are the four things that we have. So we have add function that's going to add two numbers and return the sum. So the input output is float and the output is float for like all these functions. So we have a plus b, and we have subtract operation with a minus b, multiply, and then we have divide. So now we need to pass these to the function tools that we have imported in order to convert these, functions, or basically pass these functions as tools. We need to, use this function tool. So here I'm going to say, or maybe let's just run this. So these are the functions, and when you pass this values, it's going to return the result, right? So here I can say add underscore tool is equal to function tool from defaults f1 add. So I have this suggestion, so I think this is going to work. Okay, so we have this add tool is equal to function tool dot from defaults f1 is equal to add. So in this f1 parameter, the function parameter, you need to pass the function that you have created. And then we have, so the subtract tool, so function tool dot from defaults, you are passing the subtract in the function parameter. And then you have multiply and divide tool, so all these things. So you have add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and we have like all these tools: add tool, subtract tool, multiply tool, and divide tool, using function tool dot from defaults. So I'll run this. So these are the tools that we need to pass it to our agent. So now I'll create a list and call this as tools list, and this tools list is going to be your add tool. subtract tool, multiply tool, and divide tool. So these are the four things that we have. So first we have created the functions for the different requirements that we have, which is the arithmetic operations in this case, and then pass them to the function tools to create those tools, and then create a list that's going to encompass like all the tools that we have created. So the next step is we are going to create the agent. So I'll create a text cell and call this as creating the agent, and say agent is equal to React agent. So R should be uppercase. React agent dot from tools. So don't want to use the suggestions, just want to do it myself. And here we need to pass our tools list. The second parameter is we have to pass the LLM. So I can say LLM is equal to LLM. And finally, we can say verbose is equal to true. So verbose is it's just like, so we have like different text that's going to explain you why the LLM has chosen a particular way or why the agent has chosen a particular tool. So all those intermediate steps we would be able to see that when you have this verbose is equal to true, and it's like really helpful for debugging purpose. So all those mid steps are kind of captured when you put this verbose is equal to true. So we have this agent created using React agent dot from tools, and you're passing this tools list, LLMs and verbose. So your agent is going to use the LLM to understand the question and use it to make some decisions. And then you have this tools list that's going to provide you the tools. So basically the agent understands the question, and the agent understands the different functions that we have, send all these details to the LLM, and it's going to rely on the LLM to tell it what it has to do. And once all these informations are received from the LLM, it's going to make actions using these tools with the data that it has. So that's how the entire flow works. So I'll run this. So now let's test the agent. So I'm just changing this, and I'll create a text cell and call this as, let's say, maybe let's put this as agent in action. Okay, so the user doesn't have to say like a plus b, a minus b, or something like that. So they can just say in plain response or plain English that agent dot chat, what is, let's say, 20 divided by 2. Okay, so even you can get this as a input from the user using the input keyword that we have in Python, and then pass it to this agent.chat. But this agent.chat is what you have to pass. So let's run this, and you would be able to see the mid steps that the agent takes. So it says running step. So step input. So this is the input, that is what is 20 divided by 2. And the thought here is this is like how the agent thinks with the help of the LLM, or you can also say that this is how the LLM is thinking. So the current language of the user is English. I need to use a tool to help me answer the question. So all these are thoughts of the agent. So action is divide. So it captures that this is the action that I need to perform. And the input are A is 20 and B is 2. So all these input action A and B are labeled as A and B because we have passed in all these tools to the model in this particular step, right? So we have passed the tools list and the LLM together. So that's why it's able to do that. So observation is 20 divided by 2 is like 10, and running step input none, and says that I can answer without any more tools because it's now like captured it. It's not like multi-step calculation, so it doesn't have to do any other steps. If there is a multi-step calculation, then it's going to do like more steps. We will look into that in the next example. But yeah, for now this is sufficient. So I'll use the user's language to answer it. It's using the same user's language, which is English, to answer it. So the answer is the result of 20 divided by 2 is 10. So this is the output that you get, right? But you can also like print this response and see like how this raw data is. All these are coming from the verbose output, but you can like see the actual output. So this is how it looks like. Agent chat response sources, tool output. So this is the tool output that you are getting. Tool name is divide. So tool name is coming like from this particular place, right? So you have this tool name, raw input, and so on, right? If we want to like get only this response, the final response here, right? So what you can do is just say print response dot response. So response is the variable where we are saving the agent's output, and within that we have a key called as response that has like all this output that you have. There is a typo here, so I'll just like change this, and then I can say response dot response, and that's going to print you the result of 20 divided by 2 is 10. Now let's say that you want this raw output value that you have. So we have this 10.0 right as your like raw output. So the one that we have over here. So in order to access this, you can say, let's say raw output value is equal to response uh, dot source. So this is present in the sources, right? So you can say response dot sources of 0 dot raw output. So in this sources, like it's the first value of the list, right? So that's why. So this is the first value in this list. So you have to say 0 and say raw output. Just like copy this and paste it over here, and that's going to extract that particular value, and then you can just like print this raw output value. So it's going to give you 10. So if you want the exact value and not this text, you can use this raw output value. So similarly, we can just like say response is equal to agent.chat. What is, let's say, 20. You can also not say add, you can also like say plus 2. So here previously we have used the word divide, which is the same exact tool name as the function that we have provided. So instead of saying like 20 added to 2, I'm just going to say 20 plus 2. So the model will be able to capture that as well. So it says like language English, the same thing, and it says like that I can answer without any more tools. I'll use the language. So the result of 20 plus 2 is 22. So the action is add. Action input is like 20 and 2, and the observation, the output is like 22. Again, if you want the response, you can just like print it over here. So I'll just like copy this. So your response is going to be the result of 20 plus 2 is 20. So now let's ask another question, but I'm going to be adding like a bit more steps to this. I'll say what is 20 plus 2 into 4, and I'll say use tool to calculate it. I'm being more specific to let the agent know that like what it has to do to calculate every step. Okay, so now there are like basically few steps here. First, it has to multiply 2 and 4, which is 8, and then add it to this 20. So the output is going to be, let's say, the 28, right? So this is the output that it has to give. So there are like basically two steps. First, there is a multiply operation that it has to do, and then there is a addition operation. So what is 20 plus 2 plus 4? To just like make it easier for the agent, I'm going to say use a tool to calculate every step. But we can try without this extra text as well and see like how it's working. So that's doable as well. So now let's run this and see how it's working. So now look at this. There are like multiple steps over here. So I need to calculate the expression 20 plus 2 into 4 step by step. I'll use the tools to help me. So this is the thought. And the first action is multiply. So the interesting thing is now the agent and the LLM knows that it shouldn't first add like let's say 20 and 2 and so on. So it knows that first it has to do the multiplication and then do the addition step. So first action is multiply. So it's going to multiply this 2 and 4, and you're getting this output as 8. And in the next step, now I need to add 20 and the result of the multiplication, which is 8. So it has to add this 20 and the result of the previous step 8 together. So that's what it's saying in this thought. And the next action is add. So action input now is 20 and the output of the multiplication operation, which is 8. So now it says I can answer without any more tools because I've completed all these things. I'll use the user's language to answer, and the answer is like the result of 20 plus 2 into 4 is 28. So again, you can print it using this response or response, and it's going to say this. So this is how we can build a very simple AI agent. But again, so this template can be used for other purposes as well. Let's say, as I said, you can instead of this like have a tool that's going to give you the current weather when you give a particular country's state or something like that. So that's going to do that. So there are like several tools that you can explore. You can build custom tools as well, so do that exploration. But I hope everyone is like clear of what we have did today, and this is just the first step of us learning about AI agents. So we know that there is a lot of talk, and everyone is like hyped about all these LLMs and specifically the agents that we are building. So it's really good for us to get this experience and learn how these agents work. So and it is an interesting subject as well. And here we have used Llama Index in a very simple way, and even LangChain as their version complex version of like let's say LangGraph, and LangGraph is also like really good to build this agents, flows, and so on. So we will explore that as well. So I hope everyone is clear with whatever we have done today. So I'll just give you a quick recap of what we have done. So here we are using Llama Index and Llama Index LLMs Grok as the LLM that's going to power our agent. So we have the React agent, which is the main part here, and then we have function tools where we are going to pass the tools for our purpose. And in the next step, we have saved the API key that we got from Grok, load the LLM, the simple step that, usual step that we have to do. And then this is the important step of creating all this function with proper data type information, proper doc strings, so that the agent and the LLM exactly knows like what we are looking for and what are all the tools that it has in its arsenal. So these are the informations, and then you are passing this functions in the form of tools to this function tools from default things. Create a list of tools that you have, which you are going to pass later to this React agent that you have. So you say React agent from tools, pass your tools list LLMs, set verbose is equal to true, and then you can ask question in plain English language, and that's going to answer it. So this is how we can build a simple agent. So please try this code. Just write your code by yourself, and just get an idea of this, right? So in the upcoming videos, let's also do a bit more complex stuff similar to this. Okay. So that is all from my side, and I'll see you in the next upload. Thanks for watching.